If you're wondering what's on in the TV today, it is the Festivus episode of Seinfeld. Today's topic is very fitting. This video is being filmed at like 11 o'clock at night, the night before it's supposed to go up. What I wanted to talk to you today, if I can speak correctly, what I wanted to talk to you about today is procrastination. I said that kind of weird, I'm sorry. Procrastination, man. I am the king of procrastination. Like, my entire life is a study in how to procrastinate and get away with it. I have procrastinated more than anyone else I know, I think, at every aspect of life. Yet, have always come out on top and have never had any negative ramifications for doing so. So this video, I wanted to give you some backstory on my procrastination and then maybe talk about why do we procrastinate and how can we break out of this procrastination, man. You know, I recently did a video about perfectionism, and procrastination is similar to perfectionism. I think the main difference is perfectionism stops you from doing things you want to do, and procrastination stops you from doing things that you have to do that you don't want to do. And occasionally there's some overlap. Occasionally you can procrastinate with something you want to do, but I think there's a distinction, okay? If you go all the way back to elementary school, I was procrastinating hardcore right then, and an impartial observer could have seen the great procrastination that I was capable of one day if given the chance to bloom, which I was given the chance. Basically, in elementary school, I never did my homework in a timely manner. I always waited until the last possible moment the night before. So this is sort of like the first major time in my life when I realized that procrastination didn't harm me, didn't touch me. Was in like third grade, I think. There was a project where you had to make a poster for like car safety, and I made this poster the night before at like 9 o'clock, and usually my bedtime was like 8:30, but I made it the night before it was due, turned it in, and the poster won like a frickin' contest and got put in some kind of calendar, you know? So that's when I realized, you can still wait to the last second and still come out on top of everyone else. So these bad habits were instilled at a young age. It never got any better in middle school. In high school especially, it got bad. There were essays that every essay I've ever written, I think I waited until the night before, with very few exceptions. Put yourself in this position. There's an essay due tomorrow. You've just started it, and it's like 11 o'clock or midnight, and you're getting into it, and you realize there's no way that I can finish this unless I stay up all night. And you're like, I'm gonna have to pull an all-nighter. So what would you do? Would you pull the all-nighter and write the essay, or would you say, I probably can get another day on this, so I'm just gonna go to sleep? That's what I did, was the second thing. Every time. Almost every time. There were a couple times where I almost pulled all-nighters. But most of the time I would just say to myself, look, this essay ain't gonna be good if I stay up all night and write it. What I should do is beg for mercy, throw myself on the mercy of the court and say, look, I'm so sorry, I just couldn't get it done in time, can I have another day? And it worked every time. Every time the teacher would give me another day to complete the essay. See, here's how I always rationalized it was, if I stay up all night and write this essay, it's going to be poor quality anyway, right? It's probably going to be like a C paper. But if I go another day and I write it when I'm more fresh, I could maybe write an A or a B paper, and then the teacher's going to take off a grade for it being late, so it'll be a C paper anyway, but I'll get more sleep if I wait a day, so I'll just do that. And you know, I was kind of like a teacher's pet, and so I had a lot of cachet with the teachers, if I'm using that word correctly. I had a lot of brownie points to spend, and I spent them, man. I knew where I stood with them and when I could get something out of them. That sounded oddly sexual. I knew what I could get out of them. No, I just mean I could get an extra day for my essay. But I even remember times where I just didn't do the project at all and talked my way out of it. Like, what the heck? What lesson was I learning there? I remember very distinctly in 10th grade French class, there was this project that we had to do, and I just didn't do it. And the teacher kept me after class and was like, hey, why didn't you do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have an excuse. I just didn't do it. And she went on and on, like, I'm so disappointed in you. You're better than this. And I don't think that I don't know if I even lost any points for that. I think I just didn't do the project and said I'd do the next one. It's like, this is how I noticed I was different from a lot of people is a lot of people were very stressed about school and very stressed about getting good grades and about cramming for tests and about getting things done way in advance so that they would get a good grade. And I just didn't care. Like, that didn't faze me at all. For a couple reasons, maybe. A lot of this probably goes to, if you look at my Big Five test that I did a video about last week, I am extremely low in conscientiousness. And so I guess maybe part of that is that these expectations of, doing well in school just never fazed me. I never once stressed out about a test or about an essay, except for the element of, oh crap, now I have to do this in the next 4 hours. Actually, the most stressed out I would get is just over the social element of having to appeal to the teacher for extra time or for just being let off the hook. Like, that was the most stressful part. Not that I was going to fail or get a bad grade, but that, oh man, now I've got to figure out a way to get the teacher to give me more time. It got really bad in college. So if in high school, I always at least did it the night before. In college, I started doing essays the morning of. So I'd have like a 2 o'clock class, and I'd wake up at like 9 and write the essay before the class. And man, I was flying by the seat of my pants with some of those, man. And looking back on it, it's kind of funny because, I've written a 400-page draft of a manuscript. So looking back and seeing a 5 to 10-page essay, it's like, that's nothing. That's child's play. But at the time, it seems like this insurmountable Herculean effort, or perhaps a Sisyphusian effort to write these essays. Then I went to graduate school. You would think maybe I'd get my act together by graduate school, right? No, not at all. I had, my first 2 years in graduate school, at the end of the first semester, so in December, there were these final papers due that were 20 pages long. I think one semester I had 2 20-page papers due during finals week. And I waited until the last day to write them. My birthday was during those times, so I spent 2 birthdays in a row the whole time sitting in the Starbucks on campus just churning out what I'm sure was garbage, but I have such a facility with language, I guess, that what I churn out as garbage is probably on par with other people who suck at writing, like their best output. So I sound like an egomaniac, don't I? But I never had bad grades or anything, and I guess it's amazing to look back on that. And even now that I'm out of school, I procrastinate like a MFer. Like, I am still great at it. Like, right now, I'm procrastinating hardcore on a couple things. Like, I have this big freelance project I'm doing next weekend. I haven't even started. I haven't even thought about it. And I probably will do that at the last second. Meanwhile, I have this email I have to write. I signed on for this other freelance project in September, October, and now all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, I can't do it. I have this other thing that's come up, and I'm dreading writing this email because I just hate having to face this awkward situation of backing out of something that I've already signed on for. Yet, I've known that I've had to write this email for at least 2 or 3 weeks now, and I just keep putting it off. And, the situation gets worse the longer I put it off. Like, they've still got 6 months to find a replacement, but I could keep procrastinating another month or 2, honestly. What I've found when I'm procrastinating is that it all comes down to there is this pain that we perceive is going to be in this thing we have to do, and we're trying to avoid the pain and put it off as long as possible. and maybe do as many pleasurable things before we get to that pain. And you think to yourself, well, I can let it go for another day or another week. And the problem is that the pain associated with it just gets bigger and bigger the longer you wait, until the point where it's like this big ordeal to do that thing that if you had done it earlier, a couple weeks ago, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Everything in life that you are procrastinating with, it's because you perceive some pain. You're putting off exercising, you're putting off going out there and making friends, you're putting off tackling that creative project that you want to. Now there's one that's kind of like you're like procrastinating with this creative project that you've always wanted to try. That one's interesting because it's a mixture of perfectionism and procrastination. I think what it is there's some pain in there because you know that there's maybe something that you don't know how to do. That's another part of the pain, is when you feel overwhelmed by the details and you don't really know what to do, and it's too many things to try to figure out and you get overwhelmed. So like, say for instance, you want to make a YouTube video and you keep putting off and putting off doing it. The procrastination part is you're like, well, I don't really know what equipment I need, and I don't know how to edit, and I don't even know how you go about uploading things to YouTube. Like, those are all pain points where you're like, well, I'm going to have to learn how to do this, and I might have to buy a webcam, and I might have to, learn how to use editing software, and it's just going to be this big headache, so forget about it. That's pure procrastination there, because it's all about the pain that you're trying to avoid. All right, so the thing for you to think about today is to examine your own life. What are you procrastinating on? What is the pain that you are avoiding? And how can you maybe break it up so it's not so painful? Like, if you're overwhelmed by all the details, how can you break it down and just take one thing at a time? Or how can you face that painful thing and just say, yep, this is what I'm scared of, or this is what I don't want to go through, and just face it and go through it, man. What is that thing that you need to do? And also let me know in the comments, like, what is your past history with procrastination? Are you like on my level? Are you on FJ's level where you're like 110% procrastinator? You're like the procrastinator king. You're in the royal court of procrastinators. Were you in school worried about your grades and stuff, or did you kind of just be like, whatever? I'm interested to hear what your experience is, because I have a feeling that I am just weird and not at all normal when it comes to this. Thanks very much for watching. Give me a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, stay cool. I'll be back soon with more makeup tutorials.